15-minute tour of his studio that he has recorded. After that, he'll play a slideshow that will illuminate the evolution of his work and feature some of his newest sculptures. If you have a question as the lecture progresses, please send it to everyone, or to myself and our co-host, Dimitra. Please use the chat feature at the bottom of your screen to ask those questions. And both Dimitra and I will be monitoring the questions as we progress. So please don't interrupt Toland during his tour or during his slideshow. We should have ample time at the end of the session for question and answers when he's finished. So my friend, Mr. Sand, I am going to turn the microphone and the image over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Howard. Dimitra, thank you very much for helping this, making this happen. And we spent some time working on this so that it goes fairly smoothly, we hope. Welcome, everybody. Nice to see you. Thank you very much for tuning in. And you can see over my shoulders a couple of newer pieces, one over there. And I'm in my studio, in case you're wondering. It looks like a studio, but just thought I'd let you know. And I spend most of my waking hours here having fun. I enjoy working with glass. Even spending hours grinding away on the grinding wheel is very meditative and quieting and enjoyable. So I'm going to now play a little video that I made actually this morning, believe it or not, for you all. And here we go. And then we'll do a slideshow after that.
Share your screen, Toland.
Oh, that's right. Sorry about that.
There you go.
Righto. Everything good?
Yes, sir. Go for it.
Okay, here we go. Good morning. This is Toland Sand, making a little video to show to the AACG members about my studio here in Carmel Valley Village, about 12 miles inland from Carmel. And I'm going to give you an overview of the studio, and then I'm going to talk about the individual processes, and then I'm going to show you some recent pieces that I'm especially proud of. We are entering the studio, obviously, with my landscape garden to the right, which I enjoy putting in. This is a building that my father's father built in 1946, and it currently belongs to my mom. And now we're entering into the studio. Actually, into the gallery. I have a few pieces up front that are waiting to be sent to other galleries. There's some photos of some of the pieces that I'm most proud of, some commissions and some gallery pieces. Now we're walking back through my brother Eric's real estate office into my workspace, and a glass polisher there. I'll show you how that works in a little bit. And some pieces that are in process, some being worked on, some just sort of sitting there waiting for something, I'm not sure which. There's a finished wall cube, and there's the inside of an 8-inch cube that I'm working on pretty soon. And other various pieces ready to go in various stages of finishedness. And here's my, my 2 grinding wheels. And I'll show you how those work as well. And then panning over towards my my gluing station and various paints and alcohols and other liquids that I use every day. Measuring cup of hot wax and some diving weights, and hot glue gun, and some drawings of some commissions I'm working on, and a well-used sink. Can't keep that thing clean. And here is a piece that I'm just finishing up. These 2 wedges were sitting around for a couple of months. I didn't know quite what to do with them, and now I decided that this is what I'm going to do with them, and I'm really pleased with the result. Another experiment using opalescent stained glass. And now we're heading outside, out the side door, excuse me while I unlock it, and heading towards the shed that I put up that has my saws and my reciprocal laps in them. You'll see them working as well. And around the back is where I store my optical glass, ready to be marked and cut up. A very large piece there. That's 20 by 20 by 6 and needs to be cut in half. That's going to be fun. And here we are going into the shed. Excuse me while I unlock it once again. A couple of saws, a 20-inch diamond saw on the left. And a 14-inch saw on the right. And then we're panned to my 6 reciprocal laps, and I will show you how those work and what they're for. In this short video, I'm finished polishing the top of one of my light vessels by hand. Sometimes that's required. This is one of my reciprocal laps doing its thing. And I set it on timers. And here I'm rough grinding a piece of glass on an 80 grit wheel after I've cut it on the saw. This is the first step. The next process is the 240 grit wheel, is to make the glass surface even finer. And then I put a bevel on each edge, so when they go in their reciprocal lap, the edges don't chip. That's very important. You want to keep everything in the reciprocal lap very clean. The graphics that I use in my work are more or less alphabetical. I've really enjoyed different scripts from different languages around the world. And I've just sort of used them as geometric abstracts, because that's basically what they are. And I've sandblasted those onto the dichroic glass and on clear glass, and then put paints in the sandblasted grooves, a variety of colors. Gives me some more color palette. I start out by doing a fairly rough drawing, and then I end up doing a full-scale drawing with a piece of paper, pencil, ruler, compass. Use the appropriate glass. I mark it with a felt tip pen. Cut it on the saw. And here are some pieces that are freshly cut. This is my little corner lab for my mixing of Hextol and evacuating it with a vacuum chamber. And basically, I weigh it out. There's parts A and B in the front. And I weigh it with a dram scale. I mix the two parts together in the little beaker, and then I put it inside the bell jar, turn on the vacuum, and in about 15 minutes or so, it's ready to go. And then I put it in a plastic syringe, and it's all quite clear, ready to dispense, just like I bought it in the hardware store. And then here you see some pieces ready to be glued together. And then I glue them and bind them with tape. And this is what they look like afterwards when they're ready to be rough ground. This is what the piece looks after it's been rough ground. This is about 6 by 6 by 6. It's then cut into other slices on the saw. The smaller pieces are generally cast up together in a form. I pour in wax and plaster, and this is the finished product after it's gone through the reciprolate process, which is this. Then they're stacked up in the way they're going to be glued, and they're glued together. A couple days later, I take the tape off, and this is what I've got. These next three pieces are in a brand new series for me called Bubbles, and they're inspired by the 5 years that I spent in Athens, Greece, as a young man. And they remind me of 3 columns of vessels and the light of Athens, of Greece, where the sun is bouncing off the blue sea. And also, I'm reminded of the philosophical and spiritual underpinnings of classical Athens, which is sort of mysterious. If you've ever read Plato, you know what I'm talking about. I love the upwardness of them, reaching up to the sky, reaching in.
Wow, Toland, that was great. Even though I suggested that we won't take questions before you start your slideshow, there are a few I think that are relevant, and this would be a good time to talk about them while it's fresh in people's mind.
Absolutely.
Excuse me, let me turn that off. So I am going to ask you a couple of these. I hope you folks don't mind. First of all, I want to let everyone know that we are, in fact, recording this video for those of you who joined late, and it will be on the Art Alliance for Contemporary Glass YouTube channel in a day or two. There's some great content there. Please visit that material. Subscribe to the channel, please. So one question was, and this is a hard one, I think. What is the range of cost for the raw materials that you might use for a typically size piece you make?
You mean the materials for a particular piece or the materials in general? I mean, as a percentage of the cost, you mean? Or
I'm not sure because I'm not,
well,
but I suspect it has to do with approximately how much does the glass cost, the adhesives, and I realize you've got a huge investment in equipment that.
Well, I do. The materials relative to labor is fairly small. I mean, it's not that expensive, though. If you went out and bought them, you'd say, "Wow, that's expensive." But I mean, it takes me 8 to 10 weeks to make a piece, so that's a lot of time. It's not continuous. I'm working on maybe a dozen pieces at a time. But it does take a lot of time, and relatively speaking, it's like, a diamond ring might be $10,000 and the diamond might be 1,000. It's sort of like that. It's the skill that is the major thing. Though the materials are expensive. I mean, if you went and bought a piece, 30-inch piece of dichroic glass, you're going to pay, $300 for one big piece.
Gotcha.
And the glass, the optical crystal, is probably about $10 a pound. So that's a 2 by 1 by 1 piece of glass is about $10. So
I think you've done a great job. Let me ask you the next one. This is another pretty open-ended. Could you talk a little bit more about what the function is of the reciprolapses?
Yeah, reciprolapse are an interesting machine. They basically allow me to grind and polish big flat surfaces, which can't be done on the wheel just because of the physics of it. They tend to hydroplane, and you have to, it's like you're holding on to a rhinoceros running the other way. And so, the reciprolapse allow me to create nice, highly polished, flat surfaces. Otherwise, I'd have to have a $100,000 machine to do that.
So I'm fascinated by this whole thing too. So essentially,
they're jiggling and shaking. Like the pan is rotating and they're jiggling at the same time. So basically, it's moving quicker than the glass. And in doing so, it's grinding and polishing it.
Oh, interesting. Demetra asked if you could talk about how much do the pieces weigh that you are hand polishing approximately, again, for a range.
Well, I've done pieces up to 100 pounds.
Whoa.
Which is a real workout. I think I still could. This was a number of like 10 years ago, but sometimes I'm doing smaller pieces that are maybe 2 pounds, and then most of them are like in the range of 15 to 30 pounds. Like this piece right here is about 30 pounds. And so doing this work, I enjoy the fact that it keeps me in shape, because it's, I'm 70 years old. It's important to be in shape, and I feel quite in shape. So it keeps me going, keeps me fit. So it's a good match for me.
As a guy who's a couple years older than you, I enjoy watching you keeping yourself.
You like seeing me work hard, right, Colin?
I do. So this is a question that I asked. You've got those two beautiful sculptures behind you. Could you is there some way to illustrate or talk about, Toland, what the color adhesives do that you
Yeah.
often use to bind your
Sure. Let me pick this up. And I can show
I'm
you.
really watching you, man.
You can see the colored adhesive at the bottom there, the blue wafers down there.
Oh,
And that, when you're looking at it from the top,
huh.
you're picking up some of that blue, and you're picking up the dichroic as well. And that's the whole idea, is that, this image will distort what's going on down here. And that's the whole idea. And so will the outside, because it's round, will also distort the image. It will magnify it and change it. As you can see, it's doing as I turn it. So that's the whole idea. The top for this one is a blown form right here, which I ground and cut, and then I glued this on the top because it seemed to me sort of an oriental touch, and I do enjoy oriental forms, oriental vessels. So, any other questions about that one?
Doesn't look like it. Someone asked a kind of technical question, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah.
He asked, during the bonding of the various pieces, how do you eliminate the air bubbles from your work?
Oh, that's from the bell jar. I didn't explain that very well, but I put the beaker in the bell jar, and then I turn on the vacuum pump, and that sucks all the gases out of that particular mixture of the adhesive. And in 15 minutes, all those gases are gone. So then I pour it in that syringe, that sort of orange syringe. Well, here it is, right here. I pour it in here, and then it's ready to dispense. This plunger comes out and it goes in, and I can just dispense it. And that makes it very easy for me, because I'm dispensing a perfectly clear liquid. And then when I lower on this piece, if I put the glue on here, I would flip it over and lower it onto the piece of glass below that. And that way I don't trap any air bubbles. And that's super important.
Do you?
Go ahead, Howard. Sorry.
There was just one other part of your process that I'm a bit familiar with. I know you like to include these interesting forms, characters that you create.
Yeah.
Let's talk for a moment, Toland, about a couple of ways that you can kind of include them within the form with the process you use to do that.
Right. Well, what I'll do when I'm putting this piece together, you can see there are different layers of it. And each time I do a layer, I can insert a piece of glass that may be a piece of dichroic glass with a sandblasted graphic, which basically takes off the dichroic surface. So it's basically white glass on a colored surface. And then the other option is take some clear glass. I wish I had a piece here. I don't. Clear glass and sandblast the graphic in it deep enough so that if I take some paint, I'll show you the paint I use, it's called One Shot, and it's a sign painter's paint. It's about the highest quality paint you can find, and I'll put some on there, and then I'll use a razor blade as a squeegee, and I'll squeegee it into the groove, let it dry, and then take off the excess, and then I can glue that in a layer also wherever I want on here, so that when you're looking from the top, you'll see that. And I can also introduce it. I don't know if you can see the graphic in the top of that one there, but you can also introduce it on other axes as well, so it can be seen from here or wherever. And it allows me to have a much greater color palette. I mean, I can use glass that's available, like dichroic and filter glass, manufactured glass. But as an artist, you want to be able to create your own colors. So this is a way that I can use this paint. I can mix colors, make my own colors. I can use 2 colors in any given one. So it allows me to add my own colors, which an artist wants to do. He doesn't want to be limited by the 20 tubes of acrylic paint you can buy.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. I think, excuse me, there are a couple more questions,
Sure.
but I think it's very possible that you might either cover those questions in your slideshow, or they're of such a general nature, I think it'd be better to leave at the end of the presentation.
Sure, whatever.
So, point, Toland, if you wouldn't mind resharing your slideshow and talk us through your creative process a little bit more in the evolution of your work.
Sure. Okay.
That was really fascinating.
Oh, good. Glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do the screen share,
Right.
and then I'm going to play the slideshow. Can everybody see it? Is it visible?
It looks fine.
Okay. Cool. Well,
And please use.
basically,
Go
ahead, Howard.
I'm going to talk over you for 1 moment. I apologize.
Sure,
But yeah,
no problem.
please use the chat function again. If you would like to ask some questions, these are great questions. And, we want you to understand who Toland is and what is he doing.
Okay, let me go back to the beginning here. I started in stained glass in 1977. This is more or less a historical slideshow. And so right away I was intrigued with what was available in the stained glass. But I also was intrigued by what people were doing in terms of glass blowing. And I happened onto a studio in Portsmouth, New Hampshire called Salamander Glass. And I just picked up some of their discards. So right away I started using blown glass. So this is a piece about 2.5 feet tall with an aluminum frame and a base, probably around 1980, something like that. And then this is a commission for a house in, I think it was in McLean, Virginia. It's actually in front of a mirror. So what you're seeing is, on the left here is the reflection of what's on the right. So it's kind of a cool effect. And here's some blown forms I used up here with some rods that were polished and glued in. So my style is to create use like blues or reds, or rather than mix them all up, which I didn't really care for. So this is an aluminum frame also. Here's this one's about 7 feet tall. Aluminum frame, blown glass center, stained glass, freestanding. And same idea. This was for a research company outside of Boston, about 6.5 feet tall. You can see more readily what I would blow, and then I glue the canes in there just to make it 3-dimensional. And this is one of my favorites. This is a large panel, about probably 5 by 3, something like that, where the background, you can't see it very well, but it's neon in the back. So that was one way of illuminating it to give it the full effect. Because I found that stained glass could get lost in a window, in an environment with the green trees outside, and you really couldn't see exactly what was going on. And then around 1984, I think, I started blowing glass because I was using those pods. So I thought, well, I'm going to blow some some vessels because I saw what other artists were doing, and I just liked the idea and it intrigued me. So this is the top view of a vessel, and I'll show you, that's the side view. And I would, with gold leaf, and these are about 8 or 9 inches across. And then I would create the design, which you can still see in my work today. These kinds of elements are still there, sort of oriental, but I'm not sure what, they just come out of my unconscious. I don't try and label them or define them too well. And here's a blown glass perfume bottle, about 8 inches tall. I had the aluminum machined for me at a local machine shop in New Hampshire. And there was some sandblasting once again on it. And this piece is about 8 feet tall. And this is a series called Monover series. And I started them in about 1986, I would say. And I made the aluminum stanchion here. And the glass, I enjoyed this process because I covered one side of this piece of 1/2-inch plate glass with some sandblasting mask, and then I would just take a ruler and a compass and a T-square and cut the design in on one side, and then flip it over and cut in a sort of a compatible design on the other side that would. And then when you looked at both of them, you would see the enhanced design. And then I was gluing on some dichroic glass as colored accents and some other little pieces of glass. And that's where the gluing came in. And here's another one. And this is a piece of 1/2-inch plate glass sitting. I had these bases made for me. The guy in Vermont made them for me. He turned them on a huge lathe and coated them with automobile paint. And the glass just fit right in a groove on the top. So they were easily put together, and you could put them anywhere in the house. You didn't need to put them in front of a window. You could illuminate them or not. And so once again, it was kind of, what, like with the neon, what do you do with your art? Well, you put it anywhere you want. It's either self-illuminated or you put some halogens on it or whatever you want to do and to get the look you want. And once again, I'm gluing on some dichroic pieces of glass. And another one sort of, well, not reminiscent, but actually looks like a Greek temple. I'm a fan of architecture. And of course, I was seeing Greek ruins at least every weekend when I went down into Athens to have fun with my friends. So I love this piece. I look back at these, I think, those were really cool. And someday I might do some more, who knows? And here's sort of the same idea, but as a wall piece. There are some brackets. You can't see them well, but they're down here. There are 4 of them, and it hangs this piece on the wall. It's all painted except for the dichroic glass and some optical elements. It's about, I think, 2 feet by 4 feet, something like that, 1/2-inch plate glass. And it was just another treatment. It's like, okay, how about a glass painting? How about that? So that's what this sort of is. And then that became this 3-dimensional piece. These are 2 pieces of plate glass, one in front of the other, that are glued together there's some chunks of constructed glass here and here, and then dichroic on the top, and then these pieces come out right at you. So they're 90 degrees to these. So it became pretty 3-dimensional. And then I would gradate the dichroic from purple to blue. And that was fun to do that as well. This is about 30 inches across. I'm not sure if I mentioned that. And here's a view of a large piece I did. I was asked to do in a building in Manchester, New Hampshire. It's about 30 feet tall, and aluminum with 1/2-inch colored plate glass, which I had to go down to Long Island to get. That was fun to do. I had a friend who showed up and helped me do it. I was very lucky that way. I think I have a full view of it. This is from down below. So they wanted me to basically fill this window wall. And this is my answer to that, using aluminum, which I cut and welded by myself and painted, and then sandblasted the glass, siliconed it into the grooves on the aluminum, and then somehow went way up here and got out these windows and built a platform and started at the top and started work my way down, and finally finished it way down here. So that's about at least 30 feet, maybe 40 feet tall. And here's a smaller, well, it's about 18 inches tall. It's not that small, but it's combining mostly plate glass with some anodized aluminum to hold everything together. Kind of a winged victory kind of effect, which I really enjoyed doing. I like the energy of it. I mean, it's sort of robotic, but not. It's walking. It's flapping its wings. It's moving. And then this is probably about 18 inches tall as well, where I've taken 3 rectangle cube kind of shapes, cut them in half, and then glued them one onto each side of this piece of plate glass. And obviously there are 3 there. And just to create some kind of sculptural shape. I really wanted to do more sculptural work, and I'd seen what my peers were doing, and I was inspired by them, and just decided to go in that direction. Now this is another one along the same lines with anodized aluminum pieces between each one, because I could get them very precise. So when I glued everything together, I knew it would work. And some wire glass, which I saw Bill Carlson using, and was intrigued by that as a design element, and some dichroic strips there as well. And then a pyramid with some pyramid feet. Always pushing the envelope, always trying to improve my skills and improve my aesthetic, because I did not go to art school. I did not go to Rhode Island School of Design. I have a degree in philosophy from Colorado College. But when a friend of mine offered me his stained glass business in 1977, I thought, yeah, I can do that. I'd love to do that. So I just took it from there and have been experimenting ever since with form and optics and technique and all that stuff. I love challenging myself, and I love seeing what can be made from glass. Here's an example of what glass can do. This is the color in here is actually in a 2 by 2 by about 8 rectangle right here, and all the rest of this is what the glass can, in refraction and reflection, can pull out of that area. And it's really intriguing and fun to work with it and see what happens when a piece is all done, because you don't really know until it's done that all this is going to happen, because before that it's just a matte surface. It's not all polished up, and it's not going to refract and reflect until it's all polished up. And here's a piece I'm very proud of. It's a 6 foot tall piece. It's in a collection outside of Madison, Wisconsin. So this is a little over 3 feet of glass with stainless steel and granite. And here's a close-up of it. I thought it was very dynamic. I very easily could have started creating larger pieces from here, but for some reason I didn't. I think I would have enjoyed that. Here's a top view of it, of all that the glass can pull out of this column over here. And of course I got to do something different. This is some Marinis that Treg Silkwood in San Jose made for me while we made them together. and squared them off, and then I glued them all together to see what I could get with color that was fluid, that was liquid on the inside. And I really thought the effect was pretty cool. And another piece with some marinis. And a cone, you can see how the optics of it stretch out the design up here down into the bottom. And the other side up here is a lens looking from the other direction. So a lot going on in my pieces. I try and pack them in. And then I made some constructed pieces, and I had this lit base made so I could once again enhance the optics and create something different. And these rods are heat formed. So I'm using a lot of different elements. Like I said, I like to pack it into my pieces. Once again, a technical, sculptural effort, and I think success using these shapes and getting them so that they stand up correctly. And a perfume bottle. And this is once again, it's like, you know, how the heck can you do that? Well, I can do it. This is a tetrahedron, which is a four-sided pyramid inside a sphere. So as you're turning it, it does really crazy optical things. This is just one view. And another sphere with a dichroic construction. I think some filter glass. This light blue is filter, and just the effect is just amazing. And it's on a spinning base, so that just becomes like a 3D kaleidoscope when you're turning it. And here's another sphere, 10-inch one. I was commissioned to do for the Aga Khan to commemorate the 50th anniversary of his being the Aga Khan. I think he was a 21-year-old kid out of Harvard, and he was thrust into this position. So this represents the four hemispheres of the earth and the unity of man. And this is an inscription from the Quran commemorating that humanity is one. And I thought that was a really neat idea, and once again, technically challenging for me. It interested me. And this is about 18 inches tall, a spinning base, and a former ballerina from the Bolshoi Ballet ended up purchasing it, and I delivered it to her condo in New York City, and it sat next to a Monet. And I thought that was pretty cool. And once again, using the dichroic glass in a different way, using this part as an optical play, and then some sandblasting on the outside to give it a different effect. And then this was a piece that I think Vendor Gallery sold to one of their collectors, and it's just using tinted adhesive. I have the ability to put color into the hexyl adhesive that I use, and that way I can create my own color palette as well. So this had no dichroic, it was just the colored laminate. And this is 3 tetrahedrons that I think Bender also sold to one of their clients. And that was a challenge in many, many, many ways. I'm not sure I'd ever want to try that one again. I mean, it's sitting on a long point of the tetrahedron and one small point. And to make it stable is like, that was crazy. But I did it. This is probably about, I think, something like 24 inches across. And once again, using an alphabet that I created and putting it inside a cube with paints, just to see what I could do and try and frankly try and interest the collectors and show them that I was on the cusp of something. Not sure what. I feel like I live my life on the cusp, but I've enjoyed it. Once again, a freestanding, deconstructed 3-inch thick circle. This is probably about 20 inches across, with dichroic, with sandblasted graphics in it. And same idea. Very, very, I think, sculptural shape. Circle cut apart and redone in such a way that you can see the two pieces are related to each other. Same idea, but with a cube, cut apart cube. This is, I think this is probably about 9 inches tall. And in this case, the dichroic was the positive rather than the negative. I didn't sandblast the design into the dichroic. I left the dichroic as the positive. Sort of another experiment, and another large piece that Bender Gallery also placed. This one, I think this is a 100-pounder, if I'm not mistaken. And once again, challenging myself. And once again, challenging myself. This is a 100-pound iCube on the top, and with a glass column. And I created these and made them on my machinery by hand. And as Hubert Humphrey used to say, I was pleased as punch that I could do that. And this is once more a deconstructed cube, which is something I like, a design I like to do, with the colored painted graphics, and so a big sort of sun, a blue sun of dichroic between them to create some reflection and some color and some fun. And then you spin it and you can watch it for hours. And another effort to bring the deconstructed cube up off of the flat surface. And this was once again a challenge. And this is a piece with 2 cones, one on each side of this rectilinear section in the middle. And the optics, as you can see, are really cool. Takes these sort of rectilinear pieces and graphics and just stretches the heck out of them and makes them very playful and fun. And this is a piece similar to one that's in the Imagine Museum in St. Petersburg, Florida. It's 26 cubes. These are each 4 by 4 by 4 inches, all dichroic, all with sandblasted graphics, and they're in these aluminum brackets, and they can spin. So you can have fun with them, or you can, do whatever you want. They're interactive. I mean, glass should be not only looked at but touched as well, in my estimation. It looks like something you shouldn't touch, but that's just not true. You can touch the heck out of it and have fun with it and play with it, and that's what it's for. It's an interactive thing, not like a Chagall on the wall of the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And the cube shape, which I've enjoyed making, is just a classical shape that people like Isamu Noguchi, my friend John Kuhn has used a lot. It's a pretty traditional shape. In fact, John said to me, he said, go ahead. It's just a palette. So I use it in my way. and with my colors and my sensibilities. And a cube, of course, but not up on a point, with tinted adhesive and all kinds of stuff going on. You can see the graphics that are painted up on top. And this is a 3-part deconstructed, sort of a cube, extruded cube, more a rectangle than a cube. And here's a close-up of the circles that I use to bond them, so you can see through. You can see up here and down here. You can't see what's over to the right, but when you put a piece of glass between them, it's like a portal. You can see through one into the other and allow them to interact, which is a lot of fun to do. Here's a great example of what optical glass can do. The color in this piece is actually just in a core over in this to the right here. But because it's a wedge, and because of these flutes that I've ground into them, it draws, at a certain angle, it draws all of that color into the whole piece. So it looks like the whole piece is colored, but if you turned it 25 degrees, that stuff on the left would disappear and you'd have a totally different view. So it makes it dynamic. It makes it fun. And here's a piece about 18 inches tall that is a deconstructed cube, sort of suspended in a clear field. Something I wanted to experiment with and did. And I like the results. I think this piece might be one of these at Bender Gallery and one at Habitat in Michigan. And then this is another experiment where I've taken the same idea and frosted it, because I just like that glowing effect. And then I put a couple of back-to-back lenses in the top so you could actually see in. So you can see, okay, that's kind of mysterious. What the heck's inside there? And then it opens up and you can look inside. And that was a lot of fun to do. And this is one of the recent light vessel series where I've, once again gone with a column and a blown form on top that I've cut and polished so that it can pick up what's down here, spread out. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to create a section down here, but not have it limited to be down there, but bring it up into the top, show what glass is all about. And this is the one that I had in back of me. And you can see also that this blown form up here brings in all the color down below. And this is one of my favorites, where the top is a blown form, where we've taken a piece of crystal and injected a bubble into it, so that when I join it with all of my constructed glass, which gets stretched by the fact that it's a cylinder, it gets reflected up in here and up in the top, and just makes it come alive. It adds a different element to it. If that top wasn't there, it would be a totally different piece. But this way, it has a continuity and it has an essence, almost a mystery that's brought up to the top. And it's on a spinning base. It's about 18 inches tall. And similar idea, but once again, I'm pushing the envelope. I'm putting 2 of these blown voids, vessels, bubbles into this piece to see what would happen. And sure enough, this gets reflected in the first bubble, and then the first bubble gets reflected in the second bubble, and then it comes out the top as well. So it's all about the mystery, I think. It's all about, okay, what's it going to look like from this angle? What's it going to look like? It's going to look different. It's going to be totally different, as opposed to a painting which is on your wall, and you know it's beautiful, but it's not going to change. You know, it's going to sit there, and you still like it. But I wanted to create something that draws your attention in, and that changes and is fun, and you can spin it and see it from a different angle. I guess it's kind of like a 3D kaleidoscope. And that's it.
Wow. Thank you.
Sure.
I'm going to give everybody a chance for their blood pressure to go down for a moment.
let me click on, I got to click on something here, Howard, to bring us back, bring me back. Stop share. There we go. Ah, there I am.
Great.
In real life. Yeah, that's quite a journey. It was amazing for me to watch it.
Well, we're certainly
Thank
glad.
you for a wonderful presentation.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
I agree. There are a number of questions. So
Fire away. I've got 20 of them. That's cool. I got all day.
there are a lot of amazings and way to go and fabulous work, which I'm not surprised. First, I'd like to ask you this question from Paul Serta. It says, are the adhesive and paints stable over time and exposure to light?
Yes, they are. Absolutely. That's why I use those paints, because I'm not sure at this point they have lead in them, but they're sign painters paints, and they're meant to be outside and be exposed to ultraviolet rays, you know, 12 hours a day or whatever. So they'll hold up. And the Hexel has been tested for ultraviolet effect, and apparently it also does not degrade with sunlight. So the answer is, yeah, everything is. I mean, you wouldn't want to put them outside if you were in a cold climate because of the freezing and the thawing, but if you're in California, you could easily put them outside.
Thank you, Toland.
Especially if the sun isn't beating down on them.
I did want to say something before we go too much further, because I know at some point people may need to get on to other things. Toland is represented by a lot of the major glass galleries, and instead of me naming all of them, if you are interested in any of Toland's work, his email address, let me give it to you, and it's on his website, but his email address is Toland, TOLAND, at Sand Glass. Glass is spelled GLAS, not GLASS. So that's SANDGLAS.com. Did I get that right, Toland?
Yes, and all the pieces I have in the galleries are on my website, which is sandglass.com, and the pieces that are available, if you click on them, it'll show you which gallery they're at. Well, you can email me and I'll let you know which gallery any particular piece is at also. So
right.
Either way.
Dimitri, I know that you had a couple of questions. Why don't you unmute yourself if you don't mind, and ask those questions for Toland at this point.
There was one piece towards the end of the slideshow where you had those, you called them kind of lenses or bubbles at the top, and you said that you injected the bubble into the crystal. What is that process?
Okay, that involves taking a polished chunk of crystal, you know, a rectangular piece, a cube, you know, something like that, and picking it up on a big punty. You bring it up to temperature, of course, in the kiln, and you put a moil on the end of the punty, which is a big glob of glass, and you reach down in the kiln, and you pick it up, and then you put it in the glory hole. And at that point, you have to basically form it into a cylinder. So that takes a while to do that. And then when you're done with that, you find at the end of the cylinder, in the center, you poke about 2 inches in with some kind of projectile, probably a graphite mandrel or something. And then you take you heat it up again. Then you take a steam stick, which is a cherry wood cone that's wet, that's soaked with water, and you put it in the end, and the steam from that creates pressure and blows out that bubble that you started. So then you can regulate how big you want that bubble, and then I just break that off, and then I can do any number of things with that form. Leave it in the shape it's in, or grind it down to a cylinder, or cut the top like with this piece here, or this piece here for that matter. And so there's lots I can do with it, and it just adds another fluid element to work that is more or less rectilinear. I mean, you need to have right angles and flat spaces, flat things to glue them together. And so this adds something non-rectilinear to a piece.
Which sort of leads to my next question. One thing that I think makes your work so unique is the combination of forms and the way you're gluing different parts together, often in a somewhat precarious seeming way. And I'm wondering, how do you anticipate that ahead of applying the adhesive? So you don't glue something together only to find that you can't display the piece properly.
Well, my dad was a CIA, and he said, if I told you that, I'd have to kill you. No, I'm just kidding. No, he was CIA, but you have to take that into consideration. And I've developed ways of doing that where I can use little dots of UV glue and combine with the hextile, and the UV will adhere with a UV flashlight in about 30 seconds. And so if it's cantilevered, or it's like this, it's going to stay together because you're going to hold it together with the little dots of UV glue until the hextile sets up, which will take a couple of days. So that's basically how that's done. It would be nice to have another set of hands, but I don't.
Here we go. This is from Tom Caston. Can the lenses you cut into the glass focus sunlight, which in some situations could burn the surface where the glass is sitting?
No, because generally speaking, when that happens, you have to have a sphere or a really like a half sphere lens to concentrate the sunlight to a fine point, and then you could start burning something. In fact, I've done that. I found out, but with the lens, it's not. You have to have almost direct contact of the glass sphere right on the piece of paper. I mean, you can do it with a handheld lens with paper too, but you have to focalize it so that the light is super concentrated on one little spot, and then it'll be able to combust, but not with a regular lens.
So you're not trying to set fires in people's homes, like
not that I know of.
Little fires everywhere then.
Yeah.
There are a lot of, I'm going to answer one question myself, which talks about the price ranges for Toland's work. What I'd suggest you do, if, again, I don't think that's an appropriate question, unfortunately, to ask at this point. I would suggest you go to Toland's website, pick a gallery or find some work that you really enjoy, and then contact the galleries about some of it.
I don't have prices on my website, so you have to contact the gallery if you see a piece that you like, that you're interested in purchasing for your collection.
Right.
But the price ranges are, generally speaking, from $8,500 up to
a lot.
$45,000. Or if you want to get a whole wall of cubes, that's like 160,000. So
Gotcha.
your choice.
I tried to give you the option of not doing that, but
I know you did. I appreciate that.
So there are a few more questions that I don't think I'm going to ask right at this moment. But if anyone else has another question for Toland in the last few moments, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask him anything that you would like without me filtering it. So I'm going to wait a couple minutes. Seriously, please feel free to ask Toland anything you're curious about if you have some more questions.
Yeah, anything at all. Don't think it's a stupid question or anything like that, because it's a very mysterious thing that I do, and a lot of it isn't obvious. So
while we're waiting, I'll ask you one that'll take a little bit of time for you to answer.
Sure.
It is, what inspired you to go from stained glass to the work you're now doing now?
Wow. It's actually a very linear adventure, a voyage. Stained glass to blown glass, using blown rondelles in my stained glass, and then blowing form, sandblasting the forms, the blown forms, and then sandblasting plate glass and gluing dichroic and other color elements on the plate glass, and then gluing the plate glass together. And then from there gluing, plate glass is the green stuff in the window, right? So I didn't want green after a while. So then what choice do I have? So I went with optical crystal, which is perfectly clear. And then I'm still on the journey. I'm still, working with blown forms, and that's what I'm seeing now. Who knows what'll happen in the future, but I'm enjoying the journey. It's been a lot of fun. I've been able to enjoy myself. It's not, this business and there's business, but the work itself has been enjoyable, very educational. I've learned a whole lot about glass, and so from there, yeah, it's just it's onwards and upwards, and hopefully whatever comes into my imagination, I can make it materialize.
An easier question. Where's your studio located, Toland? And post-pandemic, are people able to visit you if they contact you?
Absolutely. I love to give studio tours. I love to have people come by. I'm 12 miles southwest of Carmel, which is 2 hours south of San Francisco, a little bit north of Big Sur. It's a beautiful country. You come here for a visit, you can see my studio and see some other wonderful things too. Probably most of you have been out here at one point in your life, but it's really a magnificent place. And I'm very fortunate to be here. And anybody is welcome. Just call me before you come by, because I might be dashing out the door to go do an errand or something. So, or go for a bike ride or a hike or any of the hundreds of things you can do around here.
Does anyone, again, I want to give people an opportunity to unmute yourself. Someone was wondering if Toland Sand is your real name. Dad was in the CIA. We never know.
That's a good question. No, it's not. No, I'm kidding. It is. It is. My mom was born in Carmel and my dad was born in Monterey, and they knew somebody named Toland who was a dentist, and so they liked the name. And Sand actually is my dad's last name, and it's a Norwegian name that means from the land where there's a bunch of sand. So not really romantic, more descriptive, but there you have it.
That.
What's that?
I said you're going to have to work on that story,
Okay. And Toland is an English name. It means,
just in case you get it again.
yeah.
This-
Toland is just a combination of, it's very also unromantic. It's the combination of the word toll and land. And it's from a guy, it's to designate a guy who's from land that's taxed.
Gotcha.
That's it.
All right, going once, twice. Are there any other questions for our guest artist, Toland Sand?
There was one more in the chat, Howard. Someone was curious whether Toland used assistants at all or worked completely alone.
I am a monk. I work by myself. I used to have an assistant. His name was Jack Storms, and he's got his own business now. But I actually had 3 people at one point, and I've been working by myself since I came out here 4 years ago from New Hampshire. I was there for 43 years with a studio on 4 acres on a dirt road, kind of like a lot of craftspeople and artists sort of left the cities at that point and decided to set up shop as woodturners or glass artists or whatever, and sell their work through the Baltimore Craft Fair. And I mean, there was a whole movement at that time, and I was part of that. I just wanted to live a quiet life in the country and get married, have kids, and have them have space to run around. So that's what happened. Now they all live in the cities. It happens. So.
Did you catch anything else, Dimitra, that you think we should talk about at this juncture?
No, I think we covered it. Maybe if Toland just wants to give one final spin of that beautiful piece behind him.
You bet. I love it. I love the spin. I was on the video, I said this was like a Greek dancer, and the more that I think about it, it does remind me of a Greek dancer. Zorba the Greek on the beach with his arms out and the
Yep.
Greek music, the bouzouki wailing away. It's a great visual from Zorba the Greek.
That piece be an end table?
What's that?
That piece act as an end table.
You're not allowed to ask that question. No.
But you could easily put a little bit more structure around it, and perhaps it could be an end table.
Yeah. Well, you could. I mean, if you want to commission me to make an end table, I'll do that.
I think that's within his capabilities for sure.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
this has been quite mesmerizing and wonderful, Toland.
Good. I'm
Thank
glad
you.
it
Thank
came
you
out.
so much. Stay tuned. Our education committee, headed by Dimitra, will have more content to come. And please contact Toland or a couple of the galleries, put some information in the chat if you're curious, and support this fabulous glass artist.
Yes, and you can just Google my name. I'll come up. So, be in touch and ask any questions you want, or come for a visit. Whatever works for you, or visit your favorite glass gallery and buy a piece of mine. That would be great.
Thanks again, Toland. It's hard for me to do this, but I think I'm going to end the meeting.
Well, thank you, Howard and Dimitra, for facilitating this and making it happen. And I really appreciate it, and I have a lot of affection for both of you.
It was fabulous. Thank you, Toland.
Thank you,
Sure.
Toland. Fantastic.
You're
And
welcome.
Howard, great job moderating. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you all for joining in. It was fun.
Be well, stay safe.
Okay, you too.
Take care, folks. It's been a pleasure.